Hi, I'm James Sutton, a person in long-term recovery, and this is Road to Recovery. My special guest today is Dr. Deborah Haskins. Welcome, Deborah, or Dr.
Well,
Haskins.
hey, it's good to be here. Hi, James. I'm so excited to be here.
I
Very
know.
excited
I'm
and
very,
love what you're doing.
thank you, and I'm
You're
excited to
welcome.
have you here. You're the first person that I've had actually come and share information about gambling as an
Okay.
addiction, and so first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I am a addictions specialist and I specialize in gambling addiction. I actually got my PhD from Loyola University in Maryland, and I decided when I got my advanced degree that I really wanted to understand addiction better because I have found as a practicing mental health counselor that most people, whether or not you were involved yourself in addiction, you were affected by it. And so I've been working in the gambling field for approximately since 1994 when I got trained. And I also serve as a founder and clinical consultant in my own practice, Mosaic Consulting and Counseling Services. And I specialize in mental health, addiction, as well as community wellness. I also specialize in cultural humility and equity and integrating social justice also in my clinical work. I'm the President-Emerita of the Maryland Council on Problem Gambling and serve for a number of years as president, retired from that, but I'm continuing to serve as a board member. And the Maryland Council on Problem Gambling is a 501c3 nonprofit where we focus on awareness, assistance, and advocacy for people who are affected by gambling, whether it's the person in recovery themselves or trying to, get support, and the people around them that are affected. And I'm also a former educator. I retired from academia in 2019 as an associate professor of counseling at Trinity Washington University. And there I was the head of the 3 counseling programs. But prior to that, I also worked at Loyola University of Maryland for 16 years. And even after retirement, I taught at Johns Hopkins University, and developed their first course in cultural diversity in psychology undergrads. So a lot of things that I'm involved in.
Definitely, definitely. And even in retirement, you're still busy. You're all over the country. I think I wanted you to come another day. You were going to be in New England presenting, and I know you do. You do supervision nationally, right? You're supervising
Right.
clinical
Yeah.
supervision nationally. So we're so glad to have you raising clinicians, with excellence, because
Well, thank you.
I've been in many of your trainings, and I'm always inspired. I always leave, much more knowledgeable about addiction and better ways to serve the community.
Wonderful. I mean, I'm excited about, uh, I think what I decided when I became a scholar practitioner with the advanced degree, I just felt that where people stop getting support is when they leave their academic programs. And that's where you really need more support because you're
Oh, okay.
merging into the profession more. You're doing community-based work, hopefully, for those that are doing it. Some people are working at agencies. Some people working their own private practices that they're forming. But whatever it is, people for all of us who are working as behavioral health providers or preventionists or even peer specialists. We need continual support because the learning never stops, right?
Right.
I've always enjoyed seeing you at conferences and others because we're always learning. There's more to learn. So I think one of the ways that I have really enjoyed helping the profession is particularly in the field of gambling, addiction and problem gambling, is really helping clinicians and public health professionals, as well as people who are volunteering in the faith and spiritual communities, uh, to really provide them the support they need. Because for a lot of people, they're not familiar with gambling,
Right.
or they're familiar with it as an entertainment, but they don't understand how people actually get addicted or develop risky behaviors for gambling.
Right.
So uh, So that's where the clinical consultation around the United States, we have a mechanism through the International Problem Gambling and Gaming Board, where in order to become a gambling counselor, if you want to be certified, you actually have to sit with a board-approved clinical consultant like me, an advanced person who's providing you the application and the knowledge and the skills to provide gambling disorders treatment. And that's really meaningful because you're really helping people expand their skill set and their service delivery to people who are hurting in the
Right,
world,
right,
even in this area of gambling.
right, right. So for the lay person, because
Mm-hmm.
uh, all of these interviews that I do, uh,
Mm-hmm.
we put it on an archive. It's archived on the Tree of Hope
Okay,
website. So if a
that's great.
person had a family member who had a gambling problem, they could go to our website and pull up this interview and get some
Okay.
knowledge of what is problem gambling.
Okay, so that's a good place for us to start. Problem gambling is defined as, and we have a clinical term and we would have the layman's term. The broad term that you see often is problem gambling. That's referring to a person is wagering money or material resources, because if you don't have money, you're going to use whatever you have available. So it could be for youth, they're wagering their clothing, their athletic shoes, their brand name, whatever, their devices, their cell phone, their gaming equipment. If a person is incarcerated, they don't necessarily have job income, but they're going to wager what they have available, which may be, I will protect your body while you're here, or
Mm-hmm.
my whatever I have in the commissary. So people are going to use whatever they have, whether it's money, whether it's something of material value. And the question is, are they wagering, placing a bet on a outcome that they don't have any control over? That's really chance. And that's what's called problem gambling. When a person is placing a wager, they're going beyond their means, and now the experience is more than what they bargained for. They
Okay.
thought they were going to have fun or to go um, be entertained, but it's taken on more meaning because once the brain, as with other addictions, once the brain registers the pleasure center, the amygdala says, hey, this feels good, do more, do more. And so what happens is a person is going to do more, just like they may want to eat more ice cream, or they may engage in more risky behaviors with alcohol or drug abuse or opiates, or even anything, sex, whatever. They can overwork themselves. Whatever their drug of choice is, gambling is also a potential drug of choice for people. The challenge is that you don't see the visual signs quickly. And so for a lot of people, two things. One, because society doesn't see it as a drug, society sees it as entertainment. So it doesn't, people don't really understand how can you actually develop a problem or an addiction
Right.
to something that's a game or something that's entertainment. But it still has the same propensity just as any other risky behavior. And we also see that gambling co-occurs with other risky behaviors like alcohol, drugs, um, uh, uh, opiates, uh, anything else, shopaholics, whatever. It can also co-occur, as we understand, with a lot of mental health challenges.
Let me
So when the gambling has now, oops, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I was going to say, when the gambling now gets in the way of you being able to sort of function in any identity or role
Okay.
well, then that's the time when we want to invite people to start looking at the behavior, to say, okay, maybe my friend or my partner or my spouse or my family member who's sharing some concerns has some legitimate concerns because now I've lost more than I've wagered, than I've bet. You know, I know someone, for example, who wagered his entire pension, which was at the time
Wow. Oh,
$95,000,
that's so
on a
bad.
Super Bowl game. And I don't know if you remember, it was the Super Bowl game with the Seahawks
Oh,
when Marshawn Lynch, everybody remembers that
yeah, that's
game. But to empty your entire pension, wager that on a chance event that even in the final seconds of the game flipped.
right.
And so now you're out of 95,000, whatever it is. It could be for any person, people who are materially challenged, you know, they don't have $95,000,
Right.
you know, and so they may have limited, whatever it is, they can't take care of themselves well because they're using the money to gamble with. And
And
so we call it problem gambling at that
and let
point.
me ask you two questions. One, as with the other addictions, we look at using despite negative consequences, tolerance, withdrawal. You know, some of those with some of the other substances, and then also we've noticed that the neuroplasticity that a person
Yes,
uses a substance for a long time, their brain gets wired to
yes,
automatically look for that particular item in terms of a decrease in dopamine, and it has to come from the outside because the inside doesn't produce that pleasure anymore. Is it the same for
absolutely.
gambling?
Yeah, yes. So it's a really good question. We see similar progression. So I want to back up a little and tell you a little bit of the criteria that we look at. We look at, are you wagering for or material, whatever you're using, more than you can afford to lose?
Oh, okay.
Are you spending more time in the gambling than you intended to spend? So you're no longer working and focusing on your work because you're steadily watching your devices to place a bet. Now that this is so accessible 24/7, are you spending more time? You're going to sleep at 3 in the morning, or you're getting up, at 5 because you're afraid you're going to miss, uh, a game that's being played overseas and they're in a different zone. So are you spending more time than is a healthy balance?
Okay.
Okay. That's cutting into other time that you should be spending on other important roles. Are you chasing your losses? That's a really important
Right.
signal
Chasing. Right.
because, for most people, when they lose, losing doesn't feel good because you've lost more than what you intended. And so for people who now have entered the problem gambling phase, they're now chasing the loss. And so because now with AI and online gambling and 24/7 accessibility, sports betting, for example, everything is through the device or your computer. And so people are chasing their losses 24/7, which means now they're progressing into addiction a lot more rapidly. And you have people who are calling the helpline. Parents are calling, spouses, partners, friends, because they're really afraid. They have great anxiety because their loved one is deeply in it. And so we're looking at, some people also will begin to lie, and we call them lies of commission or omission. They say, well, I didn't really lie. I didn't really lie because I just didn't tell you everything.
So
Okay, I didn't tell you that I was at the casino because I didn't think you needed to know how long I was there.
yeah,
But I actually left home 12 hours ago.
right. We're going to have to take a break right now. I don't want you to forget where we are.
Okay,
So,
okay.
so we're
I'll
going to
try
take a
not to.
commercial break, and then we're going to come back. This is so important to understand so that people will know the signs of that
Okay.
their loved ones are slipping into a problem.
Okay.
So we're going to take a break right now, and we'll be right back with Dr. Deborah
Okay.
Haskins.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. Yeah, you just did that. Look at that. It's so sad. It's good. Put that on.
Hi, I'm James Sutton. This is Road to Recovery. And today my guest is Dr. Deborah Haskins. So, Deborah, we were talking about problem gambling, and we were just going over how do you know some of the signs that your family member or that you are slipping into problem gambling. Do you want to pick it up from there?
Sure. And I'm glad that you asked that question. There are a lot of reasons for people to get hooked on gambling, and because it's exciting. If you go into the casino, it's bells, whistles, you see, the lights, everything is designed for you to be connected. You see other people uh, playing the game, and you get excited from when you see them win. And when people play the lottery, that's an exciting experience for to just the anticipation to hear the number called or placing a bet on a sporting event. Whatever it is, there's a lot of reasons how a person gets hooked. They can get hooked behaviorally because it's a conditioning process, just like with any other substance, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, or anything else. Uh, it also is what happens with a lot of people is if they have an emotional vulnerability. We see that a lot. If a person is experiencing a loss, if they're experiencing grief, the loss of a partner, a significant other, a child, a spouse. We see a lot of women, particularly later in life, who are encountering losses because they tend to live longer than men, oftentimes statistically. And so they may get hooked on gambling because they're bored, they're isolated, they feel like the venue is a safe place when they go to the casino, it's clean. It's also marketing to that population, particularly during the day when people are working. So a lot of people can get hooked to escape some type of emotional distress, like trauma, whether you're a vet and you've been in the military or you've been serving and you have a post-traumatic stress experience that you're still triggered by, or you're still having these memories about. And so the gambling can be escape from that experience. We also see that people can have personality characteristics like that you hear this term addictive personality just in a layman's term, but we call it sensation seeking, where a person is not aversive to risk. They actually seek risk. They love being in risky experiences. They get a high off of that. They may have a personality style that makes them prone to move to that, and they can get hooked on drugs or gambling and other types of risky behavior. So we see some similarities with other substances, but the challenge is with gambling, the difference is that it's not visible. You don't see the visible signs. And so what we want to encourage the listening audience to do is to pay attention to some of the signals that I shared here in terms of, are you noticing they're spending more and more time, or they're making up excuses, or they're missing out on important events or important roles or activities. But we also notice that people who are encountering an experience where they feel alone in the world. It's what we call, isolation, even from being connected to an experience beyond yourself. We have a term we call it spirituality, just this transcendence where I know that I'm not alone in the world. It's not just me in the world, but I have a power greater than myself that's partnering with me to help me breathe through challenges in life. For a lot of people, some people have experienced spirituality in a more formal way. They may have been raised in a faith tradition. Maybe they're Jewish or they're Muslim or they're Christian or they're of another Buddhist. They may be in a formal tradition where they got exposed to spirituality through a formal faith journey where they have certain rituals, they certain practices, they have a deity that they believe in and they look up to or they experience a relationship with. But then we have a lot of people who also experience it in an informal way where it's not connected to, say, a formalized faith tradition, where it's a vertical and horizontal relationship. It's a relationship just like a relationship with a friend. I might have a relationship with a God of my understanding, my higher power, whatever I name it. I had a client who said, I don't believe in God. He was addicted. He said, I don't believe in God because God abandoned me when I was put into foster care. What God would do that? So he said, nature is my God. And I said, well, let's see how we can use nature to help you breathe better. Notice that nature doesn't take away, nature expands, nature respects, nature doesn't harm. Let's look at how you can use nature to connect you more and help you when you're struggling. And so let's look at that relationship with nature. Some people are going to encounter it in formal ways, informal ways, or they may even be using it in some of the newer ways like nature. Not new, but we're recognizing it new. We haven't recognized it as a field of behavioral health or in public health or even in medicine necessarily, but we're understanding that people are also using nature spiritually. Whatever it is that is your experience, we encourage that because when people feel alone in the world, they struggle. And recovery is an opportunity to not be alone. Recovery is a journey one day at a time, not even a day, 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever, in a 24 hours. I can't even necessarily say one day because I might be gasping for breath to really get through whatever my stressful or painful experiences 1 moment at a time. But we also want to introduce people to spirituality as a strategy, as a relationship, even before the strategy, but a relationship. And then we also have strategies that you can access. And when you enter into a spiritual recovery community, like if you go to a 12-step room, we have a 12-step fellowship, Gamblers Anonymous.
Right.
We have that for people who are struggling with gambling-related harm and addiction. We also have a companion, just like Al-Anon, Nal-Anon, the family component. So if you're an affected other, you also can access a spiritual-based program through Gam-Anon. It's similar to Al-Anon, and you have people who have a lived experience of recovering from having a loved one or a friend where someone they cared about who struggled with gambling harm. And so they need support. And the good news is in the state of Maryland, we have support for free. You can call the 1-800 gambler number, and that will connect you to confidential, trained volunteers 24/7 that will listen to you with compassion, will not judge you, will not criticize you, will have an open heart, open presence with you, and get you connected to community-based care, gambling care, for the person struggling with gambling, problem gambling, or gambling addiction, for the people who are the affected others. So just like with other substances and risky behaviors, we see that any person who is experiencing a gambling addiction or a gambling harm, there are 8 to 10 affected people that have been affected, and so we want them to get the support too. So we do see similarities with alcohol, drugs, opiates. The difference is we don't have the same type of withdrawal. That's one.
Okay.
Because with the others, you can see physical signs through withdrawal, where a person has to now be, ideally, we want to get them to a medical sort of a place of safety, because they need to be monitored, because people will lose their life if they are not given the right support medically for alcohol, drugs, opiates in particular, right?
Right.
But with gambling, it's gonna look different. When people are going through withdrawal because their money has run out, their time has run out, and they are trying to stay in the game, or they have gotten to a place where they have overdosed on the drug of choice, the game, right?
Okay.
You're going to start to notice they're going to be more anxious, they're going to be more irritable. We see people becoming angry, more enraged. They become impossible to live with, similar to other drugs of choice that you see. If they can't get access to the venue, they can't get access to the games that they play, they're going to show it in their behavior. They're
Okay.
going to show it in their attitude. They're going to show it in their disposition. They're going to also look exhausted. And so that can be a similarity.
Okay.
You can see that physical sign because they may be spending too much time. You know, they're not sleeping. They're also not eating. They don't have the same proper nutrition. I remember a fellow who I did a radio uh, uh, show interview with, and he said that he was only eating cereal because that's all he could afford.
Wow.
His money had run out. And I remember thinking he also was working 3 jobs to still maintain his gambling addiction.
Wow.
And so what I remember about this person, this human being, was I thought that he was in his 20s, but he was actually in his 40s, early 40s. And when you think about it, if a person is only eating cereal, it's like an infant. An infant, as they get older, we have to start giving them, you know, real food
Right.
in order for them to grow.
Right.
They
Right.
can't just drink the milk. And so when you think about a person just eating cereal for however long, their body, their brain isn't growing, their body
Okay.
isn't growing. So it was no surprise when I thought about this fellow being younger actually in his disposition when he was actually older, because his body and his brain was no longer growing in a normal developmental way.
Okay.
So we want people to take care of their bodies. When people get uh, overwhelmed, and for a lot of people say they're using gambling as a financial strategy, particularly if they don't have enough money to make it in the world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
world we
True.
live in, particularly with food costs going up, particularly with gas going up, people don't have money for transportation. Even if they're not making a livable wage job, they're not able to get to the better paying jobs. They're not able to take care of themselves and their families, right? And so, you know, we want people to reach out for help, because gambling is never going to be the right strategy for financial problems.
Right.
We want you to get connected to the 1-800-GAMBLER helpline, or in the state of Maryland, the 211 crisis help call
Okay.
or chat.
Great. Thank you. That's important information, and I think we're going to post it on the website too. So we only have a
Great.
few seconds left. Any closing remarks? Because you covered a lot, and I'm going to have you back because there's so much more
Okay,
that you can share
sure.
with us. So you have anything you want to share in the last few seconds?
Absolutely. What I would say to people is this: I cannot guarantee you anything today, but what I can assure you is this: if you stay in the process of getting help, there is hope. Okay? You will get better. Things will get better over time if you reach out for help. Recovery, treatment, there is support. You're not in this alone.
Thank you. Thank you. Great
You're
closing.
welcome.
Great closing.
You're welcome.
I got
You're
chills.
welcome. Oh, you're welcome.
All right.
It's the truth.
And we'll definitely have you back. My
Thank
guest
you for
today.
having me.
Oh, thank you. It was an honor. My guest today, Dr. Deborah Haskins, and we'll see you on the road to recovery.